Here's the video. So I've been in the NLP field for 30 years now, and actually more. And how NLP worked was nothing I ever learned, meaning I didn't learn it, I wasn't taught. It was over time in really mostly teaching. When I taught it, it took time until I started to understand what the patterns were, what the things were, what fundamental aspects of NLP underpinned the body of knowledge. And what formed was actually a phrase that landed in my head a few years ago is we interact with our senses as a proxy for our perceptions, which act as a further proxy for reality. And if we make any changes at any level, it transforms all levels. And I've had people complain about that phrase, that framework. It's one of those things that's a bit murky and impenetrable. But as you think of it more and more and more, or as you interact with that framework more and more, there's clarity to it. And again, I didn't compose that. I kind of caught that phrase, and every time I say it, I realize its effectiveness and its ability to properly describe how NLP works in one way. We interact with our senses, which act as a proxy for our perceptions, which act as a further proxy for reality. Um, NLP works via proxy. And I remember one of my students, Tana, in the last class that I gave, which 100% online, she just, every time I said proxy, I'd look at her because she'd be like, ugh, what's proxy? Oh, hey, it was all very much fun, but it was a little frustrating for her. But let me explain proxy. Um, CAT, the letter CAT combined create a word, cat. And a cat, sorry, the word cat stands proxy for in the example I'm thinking of a feline, furry, mostly creature that people have as a pet. So CAT, that word stands proxy. The word is not a cat. The word points to a cat. It's a way of, we can communicate. And if I say cat, you have a reference and you can go, oh yeah, I know what those are. Because so the word stands proxy for the reality, for the furry thing. Right. So in NLP, what we do is we construct what? We construct in a way, it's not perfect, but in a way, guided meditations that have perfect parallels to the person's experience on earth in the way that hurts them. And it breaks that chain. So I might tell a story of, um, for example, hypnosis is great for this because there are lots of interesting metaphors that are used in hypnosis. And you might have somebody who has a problem with incontinence, and you extend a metaphor when they're in a trance state, and the metaphor is around nightly rain showers, right? But their unconscious picks up the parallels between their peeing at night and the nightly rain showers. And as you resolve the metaphorical story, it resolves their real life issue. NLP works in identically the same way. What we do is we actually take the persons when we have a constructed piece of NLP. I'll use Doc on the Bay because it's the simplest example. If you don't understand, if you're not aware, I'll just very quickly explain Doc on the Bay. If you have somebody who has an issue, you just say, imagine someone out there who looks and sounds like you and they have that same issue. So from here, as you're sitting beside me and you look over at them, what resource would transform that situation? Like what quality, what characteristic? And they go, oh, look, confidence. I know it's confidence. And then you invite them to turn to their left and cycle through people who have just the quality of confidence that that person needs over there. You have them step into that confidence, bring it back to the chair. And then the question is, how's it going out there? And the answer is always, better. And you repeat that cycle until that person out there who looks and sounds like them is doing really, really, really well. And then you have that person who's doing really well come back here and sit into the body of the person who's sitting beside you. And then you offer what in hypnosis would be called a something what would be called it's like a closing metaphor. It's like a post-hypnotic suggestion. Thank you for that example. But in NLP, I call it a benediction. And as you sit here listening to the sound of my voice, you can start to imagine the days and weeks and months to come how circumstances will shift in invisible ways, and you'll find yourself acting in just the way you want in circumstances where in the past you used to do something else that you preferred that wouldn't happen. And I invite you in times of sleeping and dreaming to let those scenarios play out, a whole new script for you to follow. And you can start that tonight as you go to sleep. That's right. 3, 2, 1. Come back to the room. Hi, how are you doing? Right. That's Doc on the Bay. So what did I do? Oh, you have a problem. Imagine someone out there who looks and sounds like you. That is the constructed proxy for their real life problem. And I resolve the proxy taking what they've offered as the scenario, the resources, bringing them back together. But I also externalize, there's my big ass hand. I externalize the issue out there in their imagination. We add the resources and then we re-internalize. So that entire thing acts as a proxy in the same way CAT is a proxy for the furry thing that you either love or hate or don't care about. NLP works via proxy. One last thought is about, oh man, when I first learned NLP a zillion years ago, I remember saying to my trainer, I said, wow, it's like NLP is this weird delayed voodoo because you work on the person and then they're walking down the street an hour later and like, it all lands on them and they feel different and they don't know why. She said, yes, and never, ever say that again because it sounds so weird and brutal and scary, but that's exactly how it goes. In voodoo, the doll is the proxy for the person, right? And if the person gets word that the voodoo doctor, who has a lot of prestige and perceived power, we're working on them, they immediately start to develop symptoms. Proxy. So, again, simply put, and I apologize for doing this video, but I realized that there was going to be no writing this in a way that didn't get really ridiculous. So I thought I would just one take Tina this out to you and explain my best current thinking about how NLP works. There are certain structural elements that I did not get into. There's a lot that I didn't get into, but ultimately NLP works by establishing a proxy, a compelling proxy between what the person's negative experience is, and the techniques are constructed to break the person's process down and replace it with something more effective. But it's all done by proxy. There you go. Have a nice day.